So we're going into the 4th week since the Warmind DLC dropped for Destiny 2. Typically this would be the beginning of that drought period we're used to in Destiny, but in this video I want to talk about the fall expansion reveal, which is going to be happening in just 2 weeks time. We can talk about some of the content that we're going to see. We've also got new patch details, an update coming to Destiny 2, and some content that this is likely to actually unlock for us. I want to break down a bunch of hidden exotics and rewards that we're going to find over the next few weeks, round up some stuff about the drop rates for exotic catalysts, strike catalysts, the Escalation Protocol, Iron Banner, and as always a bunch of other stuff, so let's jump straight into it. First up, as I mentioned, in just 2 weeks time we're going to get a reveal for Destiny 2's fall expansion. I'll talk about more E3 details in just a moment, but we've heard plenty of teasers about a new gameplay mode. Cody Johnson from Activision said it's an incredibly engaging new mode, one that introduces a whole new style of play for first-person shooter gaming generally, and certainly for the shared world shooter space that Destiny created. It's a really exciting development, one of the things we think will really speak to the community when it comes out in the fall. So this is the new game mode, the mysterious mode that everybody's been talking about. When are we actually going to get information about it though? Well, like I said, E3 begins in just a couple of weeks, and I think the most likely place for an actual reveal would be the Sony conference, and this is happening on Monday, June the 11th. So that is literally 2 weeks away from now. Of course, E3 does happen for a few days, so we're probably going to get a few different reveals and tidbits of information. We'll see exclusive gameplay, we'll have details about what they're changing in the game, so it's going to be a pretty exciting time. Before that though, of course, Destiny 2 is actually getting another update. This is going to fix some issues with the Warmind expansion. On top of this though, it will enable the faction rallies, and I'm anticipating it's going to enable some other content for us as well. I'll speak about that in a moment, but of course the update comes on Tuesday, May the 29th, and the update should be available for download at 9 AM PDT, which is 5 PM here in the UK. I'll keep you guys posted with the patch notes when it goes live. Bungie also say they're going to give us details about the faction rallies and how that'll be changing. On top of this though, there are other pieces of time-gated content that have very clearly been locked away for the future, and one of the main examples of course would be Black Spindle, which we know is in the game. We've seen the classified bonuses for it, we've seen the exotic catalyst for it, and there's been speculation about when we'll get the weapon. Some folks think it could be tied to the summer event that we'll be seeing down the road. Personally, I think it could be found at some point after the update that we get on Tuesday, because even though the items are classified, Bungie know that folks will figure out what they are, they're going to see them, and if Black Spindle was a thing that we get in the summer, I would anticipate that Bungie would have actually held off from putting it into the database at all until that summer update dropped. So I would be very ready for a potential Black Spindle secret being found in the next couple of weeks, and I would be especially curious if Will of the Thousands or the Zol Strike becomes the Nightfall after reset. Now though, I wanted to briefly mention a few exotic items which haven't been found. We've got the Stark Baffler ship, which is a kind of Warmind tech themed ship, the Other Side Sparrow, which almost looks like a Rat King Sparrow, I've spoken about this before, and of course the Iris Pulsator Shell. These are 3 random exotic cosmetic items that currently don't have any known drop source, so it's possible that these could be attached to Nightfalls that are coming up, or other quests which may be unlocked, or additional rewards for quests. You know, we're still working on Polaris Lance, there will be the Black Spindle, and like I said, it seems very likely that some of these items are going to become accessible after this update, and of course we've yet to discover the Nightfall exclusive loot for the Will of the Thousand Strike as well. To mention something else associated with the faction rally though, there are actually faction rally emotes, and there's one for each faction. So there's Hail the Monarch, and of course that's for New Monarchy. We've got Sign of the Future for FWC, and then the Arak Greeting, which is going to be for Dead Orbit. I don't know whether these are going to be available in packages or from the individual faction leaders, or indeed whether they could be inside of Eververse bundles or things like that when this drops. Of course, we saw that with the Iron Banner emote. We'll have to see if Bungie go for something like that again, but I just wanted to point out that these will be a thing. Now though, I wanted to round up a bunch of different bits of information. Drewski on Twitter was actually talking about the drop rate of strike catalysts. A lot of people have been speculating that these are bugged because they appear to be very rare. Daniel from Bungie said, as far as he is aware, there are no bugs with drop rates of exotic catalysts. I have had a lot of people as well who've said that they simply haven't had any dropped. People have speculated that there could be various bugs there, like I said. I honestly think in most cases it's just very poor RNG. On the subject of strike catalysts though, I have heard of a few examples of them actually being dropped. Mr. Handsome on Twitter also sent me a screenshot, which I really appreciate, of him getting the Risk Runner catalyst drop in a heroic strike. And he said that he actually got this during a normal heroic strike while he was doing his milestones. So they do appear to be dropping, but like I said, they are very, very rare. So we'll have to wait for more updates from Bungie just in case, but I would guess that it's purely the drop rates are relatively low. There's been a lot of conversation about Escalation Protocol getting 9 players in, having better matchmaking and the difficulty. Cosmo said changing fireteam size isn't a change that we can make. He actually corrected himself and said that he means in the short term, but he did say that adjusting the difficulty of the activity at the higher end is something that they can do, and he was taking feedback on what people thought about the difficulty of it. So with the various different comments and conversations going on about this, it does look like Bungie could be open to altering the difficulty. And I always get a bunch of comments about this, down below. Some people think it's really hard, others are like, no, don't nerf it, you'll ruin it. And I appreciate all of those arguments. To me, I think the biggest flaw with it is that there just aren't layers, there aren't different versions that you could do at different difficulties. Personally, I want to keep the current one that's there as well. I love running that, getting 9 players in is a bunch of fun as well. Either way, it looks like Bungie are open to conversations about the difficulty there. So I'll be curious to hear what you guys think as always. A couple of tiny bits about the Iron Banner. So Derek Carroll did tweet that they were attempting to fix the fireteam matchmaking inside of Iron Banner. So that was actually turned off if you're playing solo. This means that you're more likely to run into unbalanced teams. Unfortunately though, they haven't been able to make that happen. So Deej tweeted earlier in the week, we acknowledged feedback on fireteam matchmaking and pledged a new configuration that would better favor the solo player. This work continues, but the fix will arrive after the conclusion of this Iron Banner. Apologies for the wait and more details to come. So unfortunately, they can't get that done this time around. I think there are a few things that they kind of need to take back to the drawing board, especially things like the Valor, the matchmaking stuff, and ultimately, eventually, the rewards and everything like that. But for now, it looks like we will get some improvements in that next Iron Banner. A brief shout about the Iron Banner, Season 2 ornaments apparently are still available for the gauntlets. This is if you're playing in the current Iron Banner, so DMG responded to someone and said they've identified an issue where Season 2 arm ornaments can still be earned. The teams are verifying it and are going to look to fix it. So if you by random chance happen to need the gauntlet ornaments for the Season 2 gear, then you can apparently still progress with that. So that's going to round up the bulk of that stuff, guys. Like I said, I'll keep you posted on Tuesday when the update goes live, any of the patch changes or details you need to know. Of course, we're also going to get Nis and Dawn 4 of 5. So if you're still on 3 of 5 or 2 of 5, any of the other stages, it might be worth grinding a bit to try and get them done. But on 4 of 5, you will have to get precision multi-kills without reloading and kills with the prototype scout rifle. So of course that is the Braytech scout. You've got to complete the mission Fury on Io, find a cache inside of Rasputin itself, then upload the memory. And this is where the speculation about whether there will be a reward on this step. Some people are thinking that you might actually get the gun on 4 of 5 and maybe the masterwork or the catalyst for it on 5 of 5. It's also possible that 5 of 5 is when you actually get the weapon, but there could be some other thing that you get for 4 of 5. So either way, if you're interested in new rewards, it's definitely worth being ready for this one. Again, I'll keep you guys posted. Last little thing I wanted to point out though is just a cool slide of a bunch of different images from Bungie GDC presentations, I believe it was. And this is where they've been showing different elements of development. I just wanted to point out some interesting gear here. So you can see these rifle models. They're actually somewhat reminiscent of some of the weapons that we've seen, the Suros regime on the right. Even things like the Polaris Lance are kind of similar to what we see in the middle there. And this is kind of earlier modular exploration and design of some of these weapons. This actually predates D1 as far as I'm aware. So you can see that scout in the middle is actually a dead orbit one. You've got an FWC one as well that also appears to have kind of a sun in the background like the Osiris logo. Obviously this was pretty early stuff. And you've got some other pretty cool weapon skins there as well. This is another image which is particularly interesting. It's actually got a bunch of different graphic design that they used on emblems and cloaks and things like that in Destiny 1, but they'd actually put some of them onto weapons again. I believe this is all pre-release of Destiny 1, and these are really cool. I wish we'd actually seen more weapons in the game with skins like this. One to point out that's very interesting though, considering this is before D1 actually dropped. You have got that scout rifle right there with the kind of very dark green and then the bright fluorescent green that you see on the Viced weapons. So I think that actually could be an earlier Viced weapon, or they could have at least been exploring visuals for set weapons and things like that. But it's possible we could be looking at a very early Viced weapon. Of course, we didn't actually get the Viced Foundry until Destiny 2. Obviously some content they save for later on, other things just get reworked and kind of mixed up a little bit. But I always find it really interesting to look at this development kind of stuff, so I just thought I'd share that with you guys anyway. But that is going to summarize the video. I hope you have enjoyed it. As always guys, if you have, a like is very much appreciated below. If you're new to the channel, be sure to hit subscribe to see a lot more Destiny 2 content. Check out my sponsor Into the AM for some awesome clothes, hoodies, shirts. They've got bandanas, hats, various accessories, Overwatch League shirts and more, and you can save 10% in the store using code Houndish. My link for that will be below. For now though, I appreciate you watching as always, and I will catch you very soon.